What's up, Spellslingers? Chris, Legendary Mana, and it's always great to see you. By the way, a couple of things I want to say, kind of get out of the way. We're closely approaching 500 subscribers. First off, I want to thank all of you for subscribing, liking, commenting on the videos when you can. It helps us out, and to be honest, without you guys, we can't continue to make content. So, please like and subscribe to our channel, as well as there's some links in the description to our Patreon and so on and so forth. Every bit of support helps, doesn't matter what it is. Thank you for supporting the channel. So, with that aside, let's now get into the news. First up, we have the banned and restricted announcement, which Wizards of the Coast today announced there are no additional bans or restrictions on standard or the modern format, which, to be very honest, is a great move. Like, for instance, we don't need to ban anything in either format. I like both formats right now. In fact, I think they're probably the healthiest they've been in the last probably 3 to 5 years. 5 years maybe stretching it a little bit, but as far as I can remember, this is probably the healthiest either one of these formats have been. About 3 years ago, I left Modern for a while because it became a one-deck format. Now there's so many decks to play, like you could go to Modern and play just about anything. Now, the one difference is when you're talking about competitive Magic, going to either GPs or anything like that, but at the same time, you could go and most GPs have about maybe 8 to 12 different variations out there. And some of those individual decks like Eldrazi Tron or Affinity or Counters Company or any of these other decks that are being played in Modern right now, they have slight variations and they do very well. So I don't think it's not a one deck format by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a 50 deck format, but when you talk about Modern and what it was beforehand, it's in a great place. Standard, very, very similar. Now, you have your true tier 1 decks, like, say, Ramanop Red, you have Teamer Energy, but you have other decks like Gifts Pharaoh that's starting to gain some traction. You have Black-Green that's still out there. Mardu Vehicles is still doing some damage as well. There are options. White Eldrazi is another standard deck that's starting to sort of make some noise and win some tournaments and leagues and so on and so forth. So it's not a very narrow format as it was even a year ago. So I think no bans, no anything was a great move for Wizards of the Coast not to do anything. Now, the only thing that saw any bans or restrictions was Vintage. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about Vintage because I don't play it, I don't cover it, and it's not something that I'm very interested in. But I wanted to make sure I at least covered off on that. So in Vintage, the 2 cards that have been restricted are Thorn of Amethyst and Monastery Mentor. Now, I don't know much about these, but according to the article, Monastery Mentor has emerged as a clear best win condition for blue decks and can be difficult to combat and recover from due to the number of powerful 0 and 1 cost non-creature spells available in the format. In an effort to weaken such strategies and allow for more diversity and choice of win conditions, Monastery Mentor is restricted. So for Thorn of Amethyst, they wrote, Thorn of Amethyst is one of the most powerful disruptive tools in the shop's deck, and it allows the deck to continue applying creature-based threats unimpeded. The case for restricting Sphere of Resistance instead is to avoid splash damage on other archetypes. Other non-shop creature decks also use Thorn of Amethyst. However, given the strengths of shops in the current metagame and a restriction weakened the other top deck, we decided to make a more impactful change. So again, like I said, I don't follow Vintage, I don't play Vintage, so I'm not going to expand any more than that, but I wanted to make sure that I at least covered off on an announcement that they made. Finally, Wizards of the Coast responded to the Ixilan leaks that we got several weeks ago. If you don't remember, there was photos like these floating around that was talking about these were cards from Ixalan, like this curled up foil sheet. Now, Wizards of the Coast refrained from announcing that it was real or talking about how real it was, but in their recent article, they go to explain. We take security of our printing facilities very seriously. However, during a shift at one of these facilities, a former temporary employee of the facility allegedly took a stack of uncut sheets from Ixalan, evaded security, and left the building. A security camera recorded the alleged theft. Subsequently, posts started appearing online on various websites advertising these sheets for sale, including photos of these sheets in question. Those are the photos you might be familiar with. They were blurry, not everything was readable, and they didn't show the full set, but they were very real. So I have to give kudos to Wizards for finally opening up and saying that it was a theft. And to be very honest, there's nothing wrong with that. It happens. Now, do they need to tighten up security? Maybe. But here's the thing. Let's talk about Apple, for instance, Samsung, all of these other big companies, because they're all high-profile products. They sit there and people will try to make money on leaking this stuff out. I mean, it's just the nature of how people are sometimes, and it's unfortunate. But that is just the world that we live in, and we have to accept that from time to time, that we're going to have some problems with this kind of thing. I don't think it's solely only a Wizards issue, because to be honest, everywhere it happens, as I just said. So they also decided to go ahead and release all of the cards for us to see. Now, I think overall, this is a great move for Wizards of the Coast. They're making the right decision. They're talking about it, they're accepting the issue, and at the same time, they're also making it right by saying, here are all the cards. These are what you saw. There's still more to come. We still have a lot more cards to even talk about, but this is what they were. Have fun with it. And so now we know all the mechanics. We know the cards that were blurry in the screen, so we don't have to use this weird way of looking in the different light to see the photo and trying to make sense of it during preview season. No, they gave us all the cards that were on those sheets. Very nice move. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for owning up to an issue. And to be very honest, it's not a big deal. It happens. So lastly, I want to give you an update on what we are doing on the channel. Now, don't worry, nothing's happening drastic. We're not removing anything, or we're not going to rebrand at this point. But what we are doing is going to change the content we're going to be delivering, how we're going to deliver it, the frequency, and so on and so forth. Additionally, we're going to be adding some new pieces to the channel. So a couple things I want to talk about. First is the EV Booster Box game, which you've probably seen already. We've released, I think, one episode so far. We're going to be releasing one episode probably every 2 to 3 weeks, and that's going to cover off on different sets. It could be new sets, it could be old sets, but I think our very first chain of episodes is going to cover, which I think you've already seen, Modern Masters 2013. We're going to have Modern Masters 2015. 2017 Modern Masters, and Eternal Masters, leading up to we're going to do an Iconic Masters when it comes out. Subsequently, we are going to do them for regular sets as well, because I think it's important to do openings, but I started realizing regular openings just didn't really cut it. So what I wanted to do was do something slightly different than others. I know Tulare Community College has the Booster Box game, and that's all fine. You know, you get $200 in value, and they get another box and see how many boxes they get. This, I just want to do straight up value. Can we sit there and open the value that is expected out of these boxes? So we're going to continue to do that. The first one was sort of a test. I felt like it did pretty well. I was happy with it. So we're going to continue doing that. Next, podcasts are going to come back. We were doing them for a while with Desolator Magic, and we're going to expand our reach on who we're going to ask to come on the podcast. Desolator, we're going to ask you to come on as well if you want to. If you don't, that's great too. But we look forward to reaching out to YouTube creators and doing a monthly podcast and just talking about different issues that are at hand, maybe opening up to creating a forum where you guys submit questions and we talk about things that you guys are asking about. So we really want to make this as an interactive experience and allowing other YouTubers to come on and talk about things that you want to know about. So we're going to be working on that for quite a bit here and sort of trying to iron out the details. We're looking to launch that particular series back up probably in November. And I'm going to actually do one live. The first podcast that we're going to do is live at GP Portland. So look for that. I can't wait for that. That's going to be a fun one to do, I think. Additionally, the vlogs, I don't know. You tell me below. I'm doing the vlogs, and I don't know if anybody really cares about them. So let me know in the comments below if you guys still want that content. If I don't get one person telling me that they like that content and want to see that journey as I'm trying to, make it to the Pro Tour somehow, then I'll just stop doing that series and it'll drop off the channel. I'll leave the old ones up there for archive purposes, but I just won't produce anymore because then it's just a waste of time if nobody really wants to see those. Next, I'm really excited to announce we are planning in the next couple of months to launch a brand new series that won't be hosted by me, but it'll be co-hosted by me. And it's going to be about drafting. So I'm not going to tell about any details right now because we're still working out the details and we're still writing how the show is going to be put together. But the main and primary focus of the content will be around drafting. Next, I've been doing deck techs and this and that and the other thing, and I think the direction I kind of want to go, because I'm a brewer at heart, is I'm going to make a series called Brewer's Corner, and it's going to replace deck techs. I'm not going to actually do deck techs because there's so many people that do already. And I want to put up experimental builds for you guys to have, thoughts about or talk about, say, hey, that stinks, or hey, that's a cool idea. I want to adopt that to, something else, or I have a better idea. It's all about fostering new ideas within the community. Whether you tell us about them or whether you just do them on your own, that's fine. But the deck tech series was always supposed to be something where it would engage you as opposed to telling you what to play. And I don't feel like the deck techs that we were doing really just kind of owned up to that whole thing. So I'm going to completely shift and rebrand how deck techs are produced and put together and given to you guys to watch. And the premise of that is not necessarily that it's a deck you can pick up and go play. It's something that I'm working on that I really like to play, and I'm sort of brewing. It's going to be a brewer session, a sort of brewer's corner, and basically, rogue brews or what have you. And I already have one that I'm working on that you are going to see very soon. Next, there's a couple other things that we're going to do. As you know, I am starting to get into competitive Magic more and more every day, and I'm getting deeper and deeper into it because my goal is to make the Pro Tour at some point. So anyways, two things that we're going to do, which are things that I do already, and I was like, well, why don't I just put this in video form, and that way you guys can get some information as well. Now, I'm not a, ironclad, I am the true resource of this information. No, that's not what I'm claiming. I want to just be sort of giving people information that this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm thinking of before I go to a GP or before I go to a tournament or before I do this. So two things we're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to call the meta check. And basically, we're going to go over what are the decks in the meta right now, what's hitting, what's not, what's doing well, what's surviving the meta, what's falling off the meta. What is it and what can you expect in your next tournament? Next, I'm going to spotlight a deck. Decks that are sort of emerging in the meta that aren't really getting any play or are seeing some play but not a lot. Let's just say like in standard gifts Pharaoh. I'd probably spotlight that deck right now because it's actually a pretty good deck. So rather than keeping this content to where, hey, I am giving you a deck tech to go play your FNM, instead, we're giving you information that we're looking at, that we see trends that are happening, and so on and so forth. We think that is where this channel should be, as opposed to being a authority on how decks should be put together or how you should be playing decks. Well, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope this gives you some more information on where we're headed with the channel. Now, we haven't been doing a lot of videos recently, but that's because we've been trying to work out exactly what we want to do, because we felt like we needed to more define and refine the content that we develop for this channel. Leave your comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and until next time, I bid you farewell.